I am excited to have Kim Bohr here today. And if you have a company that ever comes up with a plan, I want to ask you, how well is it working? I know there's been times where I create a strategy and it's like, this is going to be awesome. But does it get done? She's the CEO of the Innovare Group. She's an author and speaker, and she helps companies execute on their strategy because a solid strategy isn't any good unless it's executed. I'm going to bring her up right after we thank our sponsor. Winning with Google in 2020? I have no doubt you want to for your business, but who do you trust and where do you start? I'd advise Rosh Sillers. Not only was he episode 22's featured VIP guest, but he's also a Google specialist with search, advertising, and YouTube. And I had him put together this free Winning with Google in 2020 guide for you to get started with right now. Go to eainterviews.com/Rosh Tips to get your free download now. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/Rosh Tips. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Kim Bohr. Kim, how are you doing today? I'm so glad you are here because what you're providing for companies is so beneficial. Like I was saying, there's been times you can come up with a strategy, but if it's not executed, it's really like, what's the point? So I want to know more about how you help people with their companies to execute on the strategies. What even inspired you to start your business in the first place? So when you're working with people, how do you figure out if they're even executing on it or not? What is your litmus test to even start them off? It sounds like a lot of them are making resolutions year to year, not actual business goals. So for anyone listening, give me like three things they should look for. Maybe from the questions you ask in the beginning, three things they should look for to make sure they are executing and also achieving what they're setting out. Because what's going through my mind is, I'm ambitious. I think all entrepreneurs are to a degree. I do think I execute well because there's a lot of times there's the small detail things where it's like, we'll get to that later. Let's make progress with it. And I can tell you that's one of the weak points. I'll get everything off the ground, but I've gotten a lot better. But how do you differentiate, hey, let's do this big moonshot goal, even though we need to do these smaller things? How do you get it off the ground and then flip? Because I tell my clients all the time, don't get stuck in startup mode. You can get in the hamster wheel of, like you had asked me, what does it take to actually pull off the show? It's like, you have to like get the thing off the ground, but then you also have to essentially break the habit of running 24/7. How do you help your clients with that? So, out of all the people you've helped, who would you say is your biggest success story? You don't need to necessarily name them, but paint the scenario of what their business was like prior and then afterwards working with you. That's interesting that you're saying some of the things that's reminded me of the episode I did with Terry Lammers. His background is in mergers and acquisitions, and it's like parallel where you can have a great product, you can have a great business, but if it's not a company that's sellable, I mean, you and I can have a great dialogue or whatever, but if we can't replicate that to the team, the communications break down, the systems and the processes, you don't really have a company. You have you with an LLC attached to it, maybe. I'm not an attorney or played one on TV, so everyone leave me alone for that. But it's so great that you help them do that because now they have a chance to get acquired. I agree 100%. I mean, if there's one thing anyone can learn, whether it's personal or professional, managing expectations or managing client expectations or team or whatever, all it takes is one person expecting another thing in any area of life and not getting delivered on that promise, and problems happen. And it's also surreal because wasn't I just saying right before we went live, out of all the stuff, the tech is not the most important? It's helping out a lot right now. I'm very thankful. And would you agree it looks awesome and this is the best yet? But at the same time, I know we could be having dinner somewhere, enjoying each other's company with a group of people and have a lot of great conversation. And we don't need, the tech there to do it. And I'm so glad you're out there bridging that gap for people with the processes and the people, because I saw something in you when you were saying a lot of these companies that are tech oriented, like, I get it. They're very good with the tech, and they're very good with the tech. Or processes. You guys hearing this? This is awesome. I'm so glad you're sharing it. And I bet you share a little bit of it in your book, too. Well, it sounds like I already know it's working with companies, but it sounds that way also. And that's the thing. It's one of my favorite things to help people with is because that statement right there, some of the smallest things do make the biggest difference. You know, if you're talking sales, how about just following up with people? I mean, it could come down to, I don't really want to, versus I'm going to shoot that one email. I can, for my own show, there's guests that have been on the show because I was like, you know what? I followed up a couple of times. I'm going to do it one more. And that one more was the time they go, oh, yeah, I've been so busy. Thanks for your patience. Yeah, click. And within 5 minutes, I get the booking email. There's probably a dozen people that have been on just because of one quick click, click, click. But not 95% of them. Well, I only have one more question for you before we go to the imperfect action round, and I call this the wheel of whatever. And it's just whatever. And for you, I want to know, what is one company you would love to work with that you haven't yet, that you know you could make a big difference for? Excellent. Well, I'm glad you shared that with us. Thank you. We're going to thank our sponsor, and we're coming back for the imperfect action round. Winning with Google in 2020? Of course you want to. I'd advise Google's search, advertising, and YouTube specialist, Rosh Sillers. Download the free Winning with Google in 2020 guide at eainterviews.com/Rosh tips. And we are back with the imperfect action round. Kim, are you ready to take imperfect action? First question: what is the fastest path to the cash in your experience? Excellent. Number two: what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it? Excellent. Number 3. What is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value? Books. You wrote one, I've wrote some, but let's give some recommendations of books that have made a big difference in your business. That's funny, but it's true. If you think you have a good business and you're a terrible leader, but so, how many businesses, like I was joking about earlier, you can have the skill set, but you might not have the people skills, the business side, the systems, the processes, any of that. And that's good. Congrats for starting it. But also, when you start growing it, if you're yelling at everyone all the time and can't get stuff done, that's no good either. I've found a lot of people they're control freaks, and the business stops, the business starts and stops with them, and unfortunately it's at the end of their arm because they don't trust anyone else, and it's sad, truthfully. Yeah, and I'm by no means perfect. I'm great at the things I do, great, and the stuff I'm not, I'm very thankful for my team because there's no way 80% of this would be happening without them. So, thank you for the recommendation. And where can people find more? Well, thank you very much, and I'll make sure there's a link on the show notes page on eainterviews.com. Kim, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us today. You've shared a lot of expert authority insights, and it's been a pleasure. All right, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here today. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and God bless.